Guys, I just need to tell you one thing. We did it! We did it! Congratulations, everyone. It's Peachtober. I mean, it's not Peachtober, but it's the end of Peachtober. And guess what? We did it.
Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. If you want to design and build a beautiful website, you can do it all in one place with Squarespace.
If you just did one prompt, congratulations. If you did 2 prompts, congratulations. If you did 31 prompts, congratulations. And if you didn't do anything, but you were still there along for the ride, yay. I feel like the special thing about Peachtober is like the community around Peachtober. So thank you all for being a part of it. By the time you see this, I will have stickers, postcards, and originals in my store along with grown zines, which we packaged today. Basically, like I clear my schedule for Peachtober. Probably I clear like a month and a half of work for Peachtober just so that I can do what I can to make it the community that it is and like share everyone's work and blah, 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 and do the challenge with you guys. And obviously I'm doing it for myself, but it does mean that I have to like clear like a month and a half of work. So if you're interested in buying a print, or you had your eye on an original, or you wanted a sticker sheet and you want to support me, that is a great way to do it. But anyway, let's just jump into it because it's going to take forever. This is my Peachtober debrief. Let's begin. Day 1 was cave. I had like a lot of grand ideas for this prompt. I think I really went down a rabbit hole when I was doing the sketching for this prompt, when I was making sure that it was a good prompt to include in the prompt list, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be a cave, but it's gonna be shaped like an animal, and like the animal's it could be a crocodile head, or what about if it was a mouse and there's an elephant and a kid going into the cave, and the elephant was facing his fear of like the cave being mouse shaped, and the kid was facing his fear about like the dark or something like that. By the end of that, I was like, wait, that's intense, and I think I'm gonna need more than a day to like actually make that idea something that I would want to share. So I decided to reel it back a little bit and kind of adjust my expectations for myself, because the first piece that you do for these art challenges is going to set the tone for the entire challenge. And sometimes doing something, even if it's like an amazing idea, which I don't know even if it was, but if it is an amazing idea, if you set yourself up to be doing these time intense and labor intense pieces, I think you're setting yourself up for failure if your goal is to do all 31 days. Last minute I changed my idea to being like a very simplified version of the cave, and I think it was because my vision for the entire month was a more like flat plain view of each prompt. Last year my challenge for the month was to learn how to use gouache. This year the challenge that I wanted to incorporate into all the pieces was that I was going to add borders to each piece, and the borders were going to tell a different story to the piece or just like be complementary to what was happening in the work. So anyway, this one's like pretty straightforward, couple of eyes peeping out of a cave, and like last minute I decided to add the snail on the top just so that the eyes could be looking at something. I just thought it was a really cute piece. And then in the border I included like rainbows, which is always a nice touch because I think it adds a sense of childlike wonder and like that playful work that's intended for children, and then also elements that would be found in the landscape. Day number 2 is dandelion. Last year I admitted to myself that I like drawing flowers. So this year I said, let's put in a flower prompt. But I wanted to put it as number 1, but then I thought last year number 1 was tulip, so I had to make dandelion number 2 this year. Definitely already had an idea from a few months ago of like a flower holding a person, like cradling a person. But I wanted this to be character focused, and I wanted to be able to frame it like an archway, so that's why I chose to do this piece. I love the idea of like something that isn't alive, or like something that doesn't have like a personality, but like in my world has like a personality and is hugging something and then playing with scale. There's like a lot of elements that I like in this piece where it's like playing with scale, adding like a persona to something that may not have one, and yeah, just leisure. So I really, really love the mood of this piece. The border for this one was a rainbow, which I think complements the palette really nicely, but also the rainbow does appear in a lot of the pieces. I don't know if it's cop out or it's just like I love the way that it makes me feel. Either way, I think they look awesome. One thing I don't know is like why she plucked a dandelion if dandelions have like feelings, but that's for another time. Day number 3 is cowboy. I was so excited for this day because I just wanted to see what everyone else was doing. Like I love cowboy aesthetic. Like not in the way that I dress like a cowboy or anything. I just think it's fun. It's like kitschy, and I'm all about that. I kind of wanted to create my own cowboy movie poster because when I initially started sketching with the prompt, I was looking up like old Western movies and stuff like that, and I loved like the idea of the shadow over the face from the hat, and I definitely wanted to do like a portrait. I thought that would have made a really striking cowboy movie image, but then like obviously my brain went a little I don't know what the word is, but my brain did what it usually does and just like made it cuter. So I decided to turn the hat, like the hat became like a landscape, because I realized that like two mountains would kind of form the shape of like a cowboy hat, and then like the land could be like the brim of the hat. Then it left room to do that really lovely shadow, like mysterious shadow on like the face of the cowboy, or cowgirl if you will. Yeah, I love this piece. This is probably one of my favorite pieces of the month, just because of like the world that it creates. I love the contrast of like the greens to the purples, like the day to the night. Like I love that so much. And like I love the inverted rainbow, even though that doesn't make any sense because rainbow comes from light. But guess what? I can do whatever I want. This is my world. Okay, day 4 is tiger. When I started sketching for tiger, like when I wrote the prompt for tiger, I was like, yeah, easy. It's a literal prompt. Everyone will have something for it. When I sat down to actually start sketching it, I was like, I don't have any ideas for this. And also like animals can be difficult. So I'm like, maybe this wasn't such a smart prompt to put, but oh well. One of my favorite pieces for this year so far has been this bigger tiger painting that I did. So I was excited to try and like recreate that character of the tiger, like because I thought it was perfect, but you know that sometimes it's a fluke, so I want to see. But initially I was like, oh, maybe I could do a reference to lions and tigers and bears and draw like a lion, tiger, or a bear, or all together in like a forest, or like have a forest as the subject, and then the lion, tigers, and bears would be the border as a reference to Wizard of Oz. But in the end, I just kind of like came up with this idea of a bird's eye view of a tiger in the water, and I had a few different sketches of compositions, whether we're looking at the tiger's back from above and like what parts were peeking out of the water. I kind of free-handed this without reference, and I'm super, super happy with how it turned out. Like I just don't know why it looks like a tiger when I didn't use reference. Proud, if you will. I do think the border's a bit like, I don't know if the border's lame. I'm kind of like, is the border lame? But then you guys really liked it or seemed to like it, so I'm like, oh, maybe it wasn't lame. I probably shouldn't allow the internet to have so much like pull over like how I feel about pieces, but honestly the pieces that I feel like are not good, you guys always come through and they're like the ones that you like the most. I'm like, do I have no taste? That's for another day. I really like drawing tigers. That's what I gather from that. And it's sad that the year of the tiger will be so long from now. Here's what I thought was that like I actually really like drawing tigers, so let's hope that someone approaches me to do a kid's book with a tiger in it. Number 5 is bow or bow, depending on how you read it. This was like one of the best prompts for like multi-meanings. As you know, that's what I was looking for this year. Obviously the different meanings for bow were like a ribbon, to bow to someone. The front of a boat is bow. Bow is like bending, like a branch bending or whatever. There was lots of options for this one, so I was like confident that everyone would get them. However, like thinking, I definitely wanted to do a deer bowing, because the first thing that I thought of was when the 2 times we went to Nara, and the deer would like bow at you, and then I thought I could include the ribbon like around the neck or on the antlers or something like that. But then I quickly decided to include the ribbon as the border. I really like drawing animals, especially deer and stuff like that, but I think this piece came out a little bit Christmassy, which I don't think it's bad. Like if you want to like, oh, there's a bug sweets. Did you get it? Yeah, those guys are so clumsy. Anyway, I think it could make like a good Christmas decoration, but I don't know if I love it as a piece. Like I do like the separate elements. I'm like really happy with how the bow turned out, like how 3D it is. And I'm really happy with like the deer element, but together it just looks so much like a reindeer and a bow. So I don't know. Still cute. Still cute. Trees. This piece I was so excited for. I first brainstormed this idea and I had this little sketch in my sketchbook that said Our Lady of the, and then I couldn't read the word, and then it said photo by David Axelrod, and I was like, okay, that was the reference photo that I used to inspire the sketch in my sketchbook. And then I went onto Google to find this photo, and I Googled David Axelrod, nothing came up. Then I Googled Our Lady of the, and then left it blank, and then nothing came up. Then I Googled Our Lady of the Rolls, because that's what I thought it said, with the name of the photographer David Axelrod. Nothing came up. So then I'm like, where did I find this image? Like, this image doesn't exist. It just came up with a random politician. And I had like, when I had searched it, it was all these photos of politician, and then it had like a Pinterest link to like, it said Accidentally Wes Anderson. So then I went into my Accidentally Wes Anderson book and looked up the glossary, looked up the photographer, and I found it. So it was basically an image of this place called Our Lady of the Rocks, which is like a little island with trees and a wall and some buildings on it, which acted as the inspiration for the subject of this piece. And I actually redid this piece. This was the second iteration. I had almost finished it and I was like, I hate it, because first of all, my gradient for the sky didn't work out, and then the landscape panels that were in the border, I forgot to leave those as ink. It looked just too solid. Like there was no distinguishing between like what was the border and what was the landscapes that were pulled back. I think that's why I really like doing mixed media, is that I feel like the different feel and texture of each different media has a different weight to it. Like the gouache is super heavy, super solid, and then for stuff like water or skies, I'll use the ink and it just creates like a different feeling. But yeah, I actually really love this piece a lot. I love this piece a lot. I don't know if it's just because I love that little location, but it just looks like such a fun place to stay. Like I wish it could be my holiday destination. Number 7 was potion. So this one was fun because I already had an idea. I was brainstorming for this just after I had that severe asthma attack, which you guys may have seen in one of my past videos where I was in the ER. When I had written the prompt, I had looked up the definition. It said a liquid with healing, magic, or poisonous properties. Like I thought of Ventolin or like whatever the non-branded name is. Wait, I've got one right here. Salbutamol. I've never heard of that. I thought of it as like this little potion that people with asthma bring around with them because one, it heals you in the way that it takes away your asthma symptoms. Thought that it feels like magic because of how quickly it does that. And then it also can be poisonous in quotations as well, because it sent me to the ER. So I thought that was just like a fun little thing. And this is something when I had done this piece, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is cute. What is that? A bus?
Wow, that bus needs to get serviced.
It's bloody 8:45 p.m. People should be in bed. I didn't know if I did the best job like in execution, and I was kind of feeling like a bit bummed out. Like it's so bad. Like why do I let myself feel like this? I feel like I beat myself up when it's not exactly what I want, and then I posted it, and then it's so popular. I think because of the concept of this piece, like, and the fact that I'm, repping like asthma sufferers. I think it resonated with a lot of people, and I think the reason behind my feelings of that is like part of being a creative, I think, is being able to connect with people. And so when you think you haven't done the best job, you don't feel like you're going to be able to connect with people. But then when it resonates with people, it's like reassurance that you're connecting with people. So it's like, oh, what the hell? And this is another case of me being like, is my taste like terrible? Anyway, I do like the content of this piece. I thought it was clever. And I almost didn't do it. I did plan, like, I think something smart to do is plan some of the days that are going to be like simpler executions of the prompts so that you can like not be intensely working every single day. But then I went with it and it worked out. So yay. I was about to not do it. So if you have an idea, do it. Okay, number 8 was mask. I was so excited about this because I had an epiphany just a few months ago, which I already told you guys about, but it was like I can draw my characters outside of my books. I feel like I had this idea that the characters that I create for my books can only be represented when they're going to be in a book, and that doesn't make any sense. So I decided to draw Fig, who is one of the main characters, or one of the bandits in my picture book Bandit, and it was fun. It was really fun to include like elements from the book in the border, and if you've read the book, you'll recognize those elements and what they mean, but like, oh, it was so fun. Yeah, she's so cute. I love her. I haven't played this, but someone said it looks like Splatoon or whatever, and then I asked my friend who has played Splatoon if it looks like Splatoon. They said yeah, and then I googled Splatoon. I was like, oh, it does look like Splatoon.
Just keep spinning.
Day number 9 is Boulder. This was a fun one because this is one of the ones where the border was very complex. Like this is the first one that I was like, oh, borders can be crazy and borders can be part of the landscape. I think I just like kind of drew it like it was very like a stream of consciousness sketch, but in the end it kind of looks like a temple or something, like a boulder temple, and it definitely looks like she's dressed in like futuristic clothes. When I wrote the caption for this piece, I said she sits on her favorite boulder, the one that balances atop her planet's 3rd tallest mountain. Watching the stars, she wonders about her place in it all, and more importantly, what's for dinner. And I thought it was cute.
And I haven't felt.
Okay, number 10 was landed. So this is the first third mark of the thing. I don't know if I like this piece. I think this is one of my least favorite paintings. For me, this kind of concept is like typical of my work. I always constantly think of like, what if we're like a small speck floating in space? Like it's not untypical of me to portray little worlds inside something that is small to us. I love the idea of like, what if we're just like a small thing floating in a big thing? Because that's essentially what we are. Like the earth is very small. We're just very small. Anyway, so typical of my work. And this is the first border that had lots and lots and lots of elements. It was fun. Look at this funny little face on the side. I knew I wanted the lantern to be like this kind of 8 shape because I did an illustration for Boss Coffee, which was like an astronaut holding a lantern, and the lantern was shaped like this, and I really like that set of shapes for my work at the moment. Like the trees are this shape, hair is this shape. I just like to emulate shapes because I think it's really nice to like build a world where aesthetically things look similar, like they're part of the same place. So like I knew I wanted the lantern to be that shape. It was a little bit difficult though to fit it in such a weird like narrow center, but like happy with the concept, happy with the composition, but I don't know about the execution for this piece. What do you guys think? Do you think it's also bad? Setting myself up for like sadness. Guys, don't you reckon this piece sucks? Okay, the next piece is Field. Picture this, it's 2006, you're on the school computer one rainy lunchtime, you've just finished tending to your Neopet, you're chilling in a Habbo hotel room but no one's there yet, so you open up Miniclip to see if they have any new games. So anyway, if you understand what that was, we're cool. So for this prompt, I started thinking about like a computer interface or like a web browser interface as the border. So borders don't need to be like this decorative thing. It could be a part of the illustration, but it could just be something that is surrounded by something. I'm trying to explain it, but I feel like I'm not explaining it well, but I feel like you know what I mean. Like it doesn't need to be, this is a border, but it could be encased in something is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so when I wrote this prompt, I immediately thought of a little like farming game or like a game where you're like growing something, kind of like Farmville if you remember that game. That's what I wanted, and then it was a matter of figuring out like what the game was going to be. I basically wanted like the layers of what my typical landscapes are, but to be like completely flat. So the top was like mountains and trees, in the distance a sky, the middle was the land, and then the bottom was like underground. I just thought I love like the idea of kind of deconstructing landscapes in that way. What were the items that were going to be in the inventory? Is that the right word? I feel like I've never said that word out loud before. Inventory. Inventory.
That makes
Oh
more
my
sense.
God. I have said that word out loud. That's embarrassing.
Yes, inventory.
Okay, anyway, so I started to think about like what the tools were going to be, what the inventory was going to be, and then that allowed me to like feel like the interface and stuff like that. It was really, really fun to come up with this idea. Something that I should have done for this piece was make it more flat. Like if I was ever going to do like a depiction of something that was in a screen in the world that my work lives within, it would be like a lot flatter, a lot less like painterly. This doesn't portray that, and I think it's too complicated, especially with all the small elements. But yeah, the goal with this game is to pollinate wildflowers and let them spread through the land. Imagine if a games company, imagine if I got to do a game. That would be so cool. However, I wouldn't do it myself because I just don't trust myself, and I honestly don't think I could do it a good job by myself. So if any game people are out there and you want to spend like half your year doing something with me, cool. World is lava. I actually had an idea for this from the beginning. I wanted to do a tiny volcano with lava coming out, being held by like an mum mountain kind of, because as we know, to be fair, I don't know much about the world, but volcanoes are like young mountains because they're being created by like lava, right? And mountains are like old volcanoes because they're no longer active and they're solid. The caretaker to be a mountain, like an older mountain that's fully green, and then the little volcano to be this like hot-headed like baby exploding. I wanted the mum to be just kind of like stern-faced, just get me through this tantrum, please. And I love the faces of volcanoes so much. I just think like the expressions are so funny and so simple. Like that, it's so fun and challenging to find ways to depict emotion very, very simply. But yeah, I really like this piece. 13 is tail. There's a few ways to interpret tail, but the way that I interpreted it for this prompt was as a verb. So to tail someone, to chase them, often in secret. I thought that was like just the definition of the word alone is a story in itself. It's like who is being chased? Why are they being secretly chased? Came up with this idea of like a character peeping their head through like a log, like they were hiding in a log and they're like watching someone in secret. And then it wasn't until last moment that I added the caterpillar. Actively decided to include who they were chasing in the illustration, but I just think it's really cute and it works out so well. And then I left the background super, super simple and left the border to tell the story of like where this was happening. So I think you can tell that it's a log and not a table because of like the border. But yeah, I really loved this piece. I don't think this piece was very popular, but I personally really loved it. I just think maybe we have different tastes or something. I don't know. I thought it was so cute. I actually love the sketches, like the refined sketches a lot more, but like I'm really, really happy. And that's actually the first time I drew a caterpillar. I don't really draw caterpillars because like I don't really like butterflies. I know that's like, first of all, I know they're pollinators. I respect that. I don't kill butterflies. I obviously don't dislike them in that way, but I just get very scared of butterflies. If you look up a close-up macro photo of a butterfly, very scary. They have these weird pointy noses. It's like curls up. I don't know. I just think they look really creepy up close. And it annoys me that they're so creepy looking up close and then everyone still loves them. And it's not that you can't love creepy people. It's not like people that come off as creepy shouldn't be loved. It's more like when they fly, it's so unpredictable. The way that butterflies fly is like this. It's like, do you know what I'm talking about, sweetheart?
I know exactly.
Butterflies, most creatures will be like this. Butterflies are like, so like you're trying to dodge this butterfly and it's just coming straight towards you. So that's why I dislike butterflies, and that's why I don't really draw butterflies or caterpillars. But I drew a caterpillar and I kind of love drawing caterpillars right now. So maybe I'll come around to butterflies. And I don't hate them, I just don't like them, if that makes sense. Because I respect them. I understand they're important and they are pollinators. I understand and respect that. I just don't want you to fly towards me. Is that so much to ask? Anyway, I do like this piece. And now I like drawing caterpillars. Okay, the next prompt is town. So with this piece, there was like quite a few sketches that I did. I have this way of drawing houses, like drawing a set of houses and buildings that I've really liked recently. And then I came up with this idea of what if the prompt was the border of the work? And so the inside was just context to the border. So what if the border for the prompt was a string of houses and that was the town, and then the inside was like the town center or something like that. And I was like so tickled by this idea. I was like having so much fun trying to figure out how like it would work, whether the houses would curve around like this or whether they would be really square. In the end, I decided to go with them being really square, and then I decided to put like a town center that had like trees and parks and like a little fountain in the center. Do I love the finished result? It's okay. I honestly think if I had like perfected the fountain and figured out a way for the different perspectives, because obviously the middle part is kind of an isometric to bird's eye view, and then the other side is front on, like the border is like front on view, so it's a little bit playing with perspective. If I had found a way for the fountain to look better, I think I would have loved this piece more. But I really am tickled by this piece, and I do love like the trees and like the little town center. I think it's so fun. I think I might play with this more in the future. 15 is shell. Obviously this prompt has a couple of meanings. To shell something is to de-shell it, which is so weird. Do you think that's a weird definition, sweetheart? To shell something is to de-shell it. Then is it not to de-shell it? How could shell be de-shell? Anyway, whatever. That's what I just found weird when I was doing it. I definitely want to do a portrait for this piece. I thought it would be a really fun, like, ocean-themed piece. But then I started struggling with it being too kitschy. And I don't know how to explain it, because I do love kitsch. And I do love heavy kitschiness. But sometimes I just have, like, this fine line where it's like, that's too much. Or that, like, it's this invisible line that doesn't make any sense in my mind. Like, I didn't just want to do like a girl with a shell in her hair. I thought that was like a little bit not good enough, and not for anyone else, more just because I wrote the prompt list and I just feel this extra pressure of like they have to be good. I don't know, and not that they are that good. I don't know what it is when I'm doing it. Anyway, I started to think about what the border could be. Maybe the border could be like a square with like a cutout of a shell, and the portrait was within that cutout of the shell. But then after I drew that, I was like, well, what if the silhouette of the shell was the outside of the hair, like it was the silhouette of the hair? And I really liked that idea, and so that I ran with that. I drew lots and lots of sketches of shapes of what the shell could be, and how like kind of, you know, they have the top of the shells like this, what would those be on a head like that? Obviously I played with it as like the ears, I played with it as buns, which is what it ended up being. And then I had to think about what the border would be, because I fell in love with this idea of the shell being the silhouette of the head. That means I lost the idea of the border being like the silhouette of the shell. So then I thought, okay, what if I made the outside like a bunch of pearlescent circles? They look like pearls. And then I thought I could place the face in the placement of where the pearl would be in the shell. I just thought this was such a fun piece. And then when I was actually painting, I'm like, surely I can't do a pastel palette. That's crazy. That's too much. But I did the pastel palette, and guess what? I freaking love the pastel palette. This is the first time I'm doing like a pearlescent effect, so I'm really, really happy with that. And I think the darkness of the starry background kind of justifies the pastel palette, if that makes sense. Because I'm not a pastel gal, but the darkness of the background like creates contrast, so it makes the colors in the pastel a lot brighter than they actually are, or seem a lot brighter than they are. A surprising win, I think. I didn't think that I would like this piece after I started to actually think about what will I do for this prompt. 16 16 is trunk, and this is the halfway point. There's a few things. This is another prompt where it's like multiple meanings. Trunk is in like a chest, the trunk of an elephant. There is a tree trunk. I was super excited to see which one would win because all of those, I think at least between elephant and tree trunk, which one would win, because I think they're both popular ideas. But I think overall, like, tree trunk took out the title. I love like the idea of buried treasure. Not that I would bury my own treasure, but because I just would be too fearful that I'd lose it. But I just feel like I love the idea of buried treasure. It's very whimsical, very like storybooky, adventure fuel, like going to find buried treasure. So I was super obsessed with the idea of doing like a treasure chest, a treasure trunk, if you will. And then I also wanted to include like the trunk of an elephant as a part of the lock mechanism, and that was the hard part. Like, what is this lock going to look like? And I did a number of sketches. I did one where it had the full body of the elephant with the trunk wrapped around the lock. I did many different variations where the trunk created like a lock or held on to like a padlock, and in the end I went with a trunk holding onto the padlock. Besides being like a clever use of the prompt, I think like it's kind of a boring piece. It's not something that people can latch onto without knowing what the prompt is. Fuel for next year. Little tip for myself for next year. I think I like the sketches more than the final image. Actually, I do like the final image. Someone mentioned like, what is this perspective? Like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, yeah, it's a drawing. I know it doesn't make sense. It can be anything. It's funny when people say stuff like that because it's like, it's not realism and it's also not a photograph. It's whatever. I want it to be symmetrical. It's going to be symmetrical. Okay, number 17 is snow. This I thought was a great opportunity for us to draw cute stuff and for me to embrace the fact that it's coming into summer in Australia and the Christmas movies are coming out and all the Christmas movies have snow in them because they're from America. And guess what? We have no snow here. Is there snow in Kosciuszko in the summer? I think there's not.
Not really. It'll like rarely snow every now and then. Like there'll be like random.
Yeah. I don't want to put a blanket statement for all of Australia because there are like places in Australia that it does snow, but in summer in New South Wales or at least in Sydney, no snow. And honestly, in Sydney, never snow. The idea of having snow at Christmas is novel to me. It's like it doesn't exist, even though I have been to America once when it was Christmas and it was snowing and I threw my first snowball at my dad's jacket. And I remember his jacket was like this brown jacket with like white fluff. Anyway, I know it's real. But guess what? It's not my reality at all. I thought it'd be fun to draw like a little snowy scene. But now I'm thinking about it, might not be that fun for people who actually have snow because an Australian that doesn't really have snow is funny. Snow, it looks so soft. I know it's cold. I don't have to live with the burdens of snow. I don't have to put chains on my tires. I don't have to be in minus like 20 degree weather. So for me, it's like this cute little scene. It's basically icing sugar on trees. And I like that. Last year I did this piece where a cloud was creating like a thunderstorm and I wanted to like have that character again. But this time it was like creating like a little snow. What's it called when it's like raining snow? So I wanted to have the cloud that's snowing. Wanted the border to be like super pictorial and flat and simple. And then I also wanted to make sure that the palette was not typically snowy. So it wasn't like blues and whites. It was like lilacs, blues and greens and yellows. Like I just thought it was an unusual palette. It was just over halfway through, so I was going a bit loopy and I was like, let's just do this idea. Next up we have Wing. I have mixed feelings about this piece. So I don't really like mythical creatures. I'll hardly draw a mythical creature. I think I've only drawn a unicorn and this Pegasus. Have I drawn other mythical creatures? Of course I would draw a mythical creature for like a commercial illustration, but in my personal work I like kind of steer away from it. I don't really like drawing mermaids. I don't really want to draw a dragon. I don't really like medieval mythical stuff. Maybe that will change now that I'm saying it out loud and on the internet. Just watch it just change and I just draw only mythical creatures from now on. Initial thing that came to mind was a Pegasus. I don't know why. I just wanted to draw it. And that's where the problems began. As I was sketching, I was like, oh, this is just cliche. I think I was like dawdling a lot when I was trying to figure out what palette to use, because when it comes to putting the ink layer down, that is something that cannot be painted over with more ink. It's like once you put an ink layer down, if you want to darken it, it becomes muddy, it becomes dark, it becomes yucky. I put this yellow to pink layer because I didn't want to do the same as the last painting, but then I put like a green and yellow border layer down and I did not like that. It looked really bad, and so in the end I decided to paint over it in like the pinks, reds, yellows, oranges, and I really like that color scheme. I think something that tainted this piece for me was the labor behind it. It was so laborious because I had first of all labored over the idea of what color palette to choose. It was a mythical creature, which is outside my comfort zone and outside like my interests, and then also like I had screwed up the border, and I was honestly considering starting again. I was like already doing the line work for starting again, but then I was like, no, let me push through. If I start again every time, it's going to be like I'm not going to get through this month because I'm going to be starting pieces again, and I know I need to manage those kinds of like perfection issues, because then otherwise, like, I'm going to set myself up for failure. I painted over it with gouache, and I have to say, better than expected. Better than expected. I think sometimes, like, you allow, like, how difficult the process is to affect how you feel about the work, and I think that's exactly what I did when I was painting this piece. Now when I look back and I'm like, oh, that's cute. But at the time I was like, this is a mistake. Cute now. Lesson for you guys. Don't let the feelings of how laborious a piece is affect the actual work.
Let me hold you right there.
Number 19 is boots. This has a lot of potential. Most of my characters wear boots, so I was like, I'm doing it. And it has a dual meaning, because boot, which I think I messed up because I think I put both boot and trunk. Yeah, both boot and trunk are in this prompt list, and both of them mean like the back of a car. Anyway, my obsession with the back storage part of a car. Interesting. I very strongly knew that I wanted to have one of the boots semi off the character. I thought that I was going to have the character putting on the boot, like standing up and kind of struggling putting on the boot, because I love the idea of that motion in a painting, like telling a story like mid action. I think that's a really nice way to tell a story in a piece. But I changed it to like taking out the rock in a boot. And then there was the issue of, is she going to be standing up, like emptying the rock in the boot? Is she going to be sitting down? What is she going to be sitting down on? Is she going to be kneeling down and doing that and emptying it onto the ground? Or is she going to be emptying it into her hand? There's just so many options. When you're making something out of nothing, there's just so many options. But in the end, I decided to have her sitting on a little tree, like a really, what was it called? Is it like a, what's it called when a tree trunk is cut? Stump, yeah. I had her sitting on a tree stump and then emptying out the little pebble out of her boot into her hand. Boot, not boot. And then I thought, okay, well, I've got to have a border for this. What's the border going to be? The border's going to be trees. This silhouette of trees as a border, or something that frames a landscape, is something that I did on the cover of Bandits. So like, it's something that's like dear to my heart, because it's like, I love that project. And then I thought, to make it a little more playful and bring some life to the piece, to add in some like little insects. Obviously got my snail, who appears in a lot of my work. Ladybug, which has appeared in some of my work this year. I think this is the first place that it appears. And a redback spider, just because honestly, like, I have this thing whenever I put like my Ugg boots on, I always check for spiders because I'm just so scared there's a spider. And I think that's like, it may be an Australian thing, it may just be like when you're in the bush thing, but it's something that you do because there can be spiders in shoes. Have you ever actually had it or not?
Yeah.
I have not.
I've had spiders in shoes, spiders in pants, spiders in shirts.
Oh yeah, Rocket had a big huntsman in his pants and it was crawling around his stuff.
It bit my thigh like 6 times.
It bit his thigh.
There was dots everywhere on my left thigh.
No fun. Lucky it's not venomous. Anyway, it's just giants. That would have felt like an animal in there.
Oh, it was so bad. I thought it was a scrunched up like receipt. So I put my hand down my pants and I was like, this receipt is crawling in my hand.
Did you think it was a mouse though?
No, I was like, that's a spider. So instantly I pulled my hand out, threw it on the ground, and was like, wait, I don't know what type of spider
Gives me
this is.
shivers.
And I was like, I need to catch it again.
Oh, it wasn't a huntsman.
That was a garden spider.
Oh, okay, phew.
Hairy garden spider.
Number 20. So 20 is spaceship. This is going to be a fun one because I knew straight away I wanted to do the interior of a spaceship. And I wanted like the silhouette of the spaceship to frame the piece, if that makes sense. But that idea of it framing the piece like went out the window because I was running out of time. I think this was this the fire? I don't know when the fire was, but the fire really threw a spanner in the works because I was getting behind. Keep it simple, sweetie. That's what I told myself. So I started with the typical shape of like a UFO. And then I really wanted to have the elements I wanted the interior, like the buttons and the screens to be in the illustration. Like the beam of where you beam people up in the UFO to be included. And then I also wanted like what happens when you have been beamed up to be included. And then everything else was like, I mean, that's pretty much the whole painting. But like, everything else was up to chance. The underpainting, oh my God, if I was going to judge this painting based off the underpainting was awful. I sucked at the underpainting for this piece. It was patchy. It was granulated in like a terrible way. I think it would be better if it was all pink, but that just might be my own personal preferences.
Also, I've never heard anyone say keep it simple, sweetie. I always thought it was keep it simple, stupid.
Let me Google it.
I like yours. It's very cute.
Keep it simple, and then I'll put S. It says stupid here. I think I learned that from school. They're not going to say keep it simple, stupid at school, are they? to poor children. That's so mean. I think what I like about this piece is I like the interior of the spaceship part. I like the colors in that. I do like the lighting in it. I think it's cute. What I don't like is I wish I didn't make the stars yellow. I wish they made them pink and blue and like lilac and stuff. But when in doubt, note to self, go with monochrome. Like, go with harmonious color palettes. Let's not be crazy here. From Spaceship, and for the next 3 is what was featured in my last vlog about like 3 days of Peachtober. Did you guys watch that? I'll wait. Okay, number 21 is bun. For the love of buns. So, 1. Bun. You know I love that hairstyle. It's my lazy hairstyle, and I'm lazy every damn day. Sometimes when I film, I put my hair out because I just think it's flattering. I had my hair in a bun like 40 minutes ago. Buns are my go-to hairstyle. I love them. And also, what's the best food in the world? Char siu bao. That's what I thought. Char siu bao is delicious. If you don't know what that is, it is barbecue pork in like a fluffy bao bun, which is like a steamed bun, and it's so good, and the filling is sweet and the bread is sweet, and like, need I say more? It's sweet, and you can have it at lunchtime, and it's from Yumcha, and Yumcha is delicious. Or dim sum, as I feel like American friends of mine say dim sum, but I say Yumcha. Anyway, I just wanted to feature someone holding a char siu bao with like buns in their hair. I'm only human. I do like the color palette for this because I feel like the typical appetizing color palette is oranges, reds, and yellows, which I've already said in my video. But when I said it, I said food colors are orange, reds, and yellows. Everyone was like, Sha'an doesn't eat vegetables. I do eat vegetables, okay? What I mean is like when in advertising and stuff, appetizing colors and colors generally related to like food branding, and food is orange, reds, yellows because it's more appetizing. Or so I've read, but I thought it looked yummy. But yeah, from the beginning, I wanted to do stacks of buns, like buns and buns and more buns, you know? 22 is globe. I will admit, this concept was an old sketch in my sketchbook. It was a long time ago. It was probably like, I don't know how long ago, but I envisioned like I want to do like a planet with like really sticky outy trees that were all around it. And so I thought that was a good opportunity to do it for globe. I went back on my sketch and I was like, here's the sketch. This is a pretty quick piece. I do think I could have done it better. I think there could be way more contrast. Maybe made the sky like a yellow to orange gradient, although I do like it being harmonious, but I just think it's like there's a lack of contrast there. But I do like the concept and I do think it's cute, so I can't hate on it. Day 23 is Sprout. This was Rocket's birthday. I was like frantically trying to do it because I was really trying to get ahead for Rocket's birthday. Well, obviously I was going to take the day off, but I didn't want to skip a day of Peachtober, so I was like frantically getting this done. I like this piece. This piece turned out really cool because the frame is just so cool. This is probably my favorite frame in terms of execution of all of Peachtober. I just love how, first of all, I think it's really interesting shape. I love the colors. I think it's like the perfect choices for this piece. Also love how the lines in the sprout leaves underneath the character kind of like continue on in the border. That was an accident. I love when stuff like that happens. It works out perfectly and you're like, people are going to think I'm a genius for this. But I didn't even think about it. And also like, it's not a genius idea, but it's just like, how did I do that? I like that it looks like a 4-leaf clover, which is like, I know it's not a sprout, but I just like that it's like plant related. Cute. And she just looks so peaceful, you know? I think something I could have done better is probably the anatomy of like her like crossed legs, but like, I have no time to think. I'm trying to get ahead so that I can have a day off on Rocket's birthday. 24 is castle. I was so excited about this prompt just because like the ideas that it conjures up, it's fun. I did this old painting a long time ago, inspired by this place in Germany possibly, which is like a castle amongst the trees. If you know what it is, just like say it below. I don't remember what it is, and I don't feel the need to credit it because it's like a memory of a drawing of a picture, like if that makes sense. A memory of a drawing of a picture I once saw. Like it's like not a direct reference at all, but it was just the idea of like this little castle amongst like all these trees. I really want to lay the trees. I know I do it a lot, okay? Yeah, I did it in this zine cover. Yeah, I did it in my prickly pieces, okay? I love lush landscapes filled with lots and lots and lots of layers of like plants. It's just a part of me. If you don't accept me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. This composition for this border appeared a few times. It has the rainbows in the corners, yes, but it also has... I wish the clouds were a bit... Honestly, I like the clouds. What I wish is that I did the clouds first before I did the castle, because I think it's quite obvious that I did the castle before. It just sits badly to me. It's like not sitting on top. I feel like you can tell that it's behind, which kind of takes you out of the illusion that that stuff is sitting forward. I don't know. Maybe I'm being picky, but that annoys me. Other than that, I love the colors. I love like how crazy the landscape is. I would like to like approach this idea really chock-a-block landscape in another idea. And look, there's a ladybug in this one. I love that I shifted some of the colors too. Like I feel like to keep the border with a good amount of contrast and to keep the border in the same color palette as the subject, I like shifted the colors of the ladybug, the tulip and stuff like that. And there's the caterpillar again. They just get me, you know? The way that I approach pieces like this that have a lot of icons in the border is that I sketch out all the iconography that I can think of that would be related to like a castle, for example. And then I pick and choose what I think would work best. Okay, 25 is robot. This was a fun one because this one, not only did you have to paint the prompt and think of what to draw, you had to think about like what the robot does. Because a robot, by definition, you'll remember from my Peachtober cheat sheet video, a machine that performs human tasks and often looks a bit like a human. And so I had to think of like what was this machine going to look like, but not only that, like what was the purpose of the machine? I was trying to think of like cute purposes, like tree planters, cloud catchers, flower harvesters, forest guardian. I was tossing up between things that were real and things that weren't real, but like were not a soul machine. Like for example, a tree planter might be like those machines that dig a hole and plop seeds in on farms, but like instead this machine would be like planting the seed delicately. And I was just like trying to brainstorm what these things would be. In the end, I settled for a tree hugger. The word tree hugger usually means like a nature lover or like a hippie or like a environmentalist or whatever. But I love the idea of there being this like this man-made item that's sole purpose was to give affection to trees. I just thought that was so cute. Kind of touches on the idea of plants like having personalities and like needing love, and there being something that humans make that is sole purpose, is nothing to do with benefiting humans. It's only to benefit the trees. I just love, so cute. I did struggle with deciding what color palette to use for this piece. I do like the purples and the indigos and the pinks. I think I could have done a better job with like the design of the robot. I think if I had more time, more than a day, I would have taken more time for the design of the robot. I just think the legs don't really work, and I wish the logo was a bit better. But I do like the bugs. Again, there's the caterpillar and there's the ladybug. So fun. And I do love the silhouette in the background and like layering land like that to imply how much space is between the foreground and the background. I think it's so fun. Could it be better? Yes. Could it be worse? Yes. Number 26 is land. This is the first of our partnered prompts for this year. This year's partnered prompts are land and scene. If you don't know, every year I include like a partner prompt, which is like two prompts that are related, but they're kind of opposite. So that we've had rise and fall, we've had light and dark, we've had warm and cool, day and night, and then this year it is land and sea. So the first is land, and I also like to like make them similar, and I think it's a good opportunity that like lends itself to people doing similar paintings or like connected paintings in a way. And every chance I get, I draw a little house. I don't know why. Amongst like a vast layered landscape of like green mountains and rolling hills. And then I created like a gold 3D looking frame, which had like icons and elements of like what would be in the land. So what I want to do for both of these prompts, and what I did do, is a layered landscape with like a very simple subject in the center. Really wanted there to be visual similarity. So I'm just gonna talk about both of these prompts and like do the process for both of them as I'm talking about both of them. So for land, it was like a little house, and then for sea, it was like a little boat. They both had like white, red, and black, and they both had two streams of steam / smoke. The house had two things of smoke. House was sitting on a hill. The boat had two streams of steam, and then was sitting on a wave that had like a similar curve to it. So I used like tracing paper to make sure that those was very visually similar. And then obviously the landscapes are both very layered landscapes, and then the frames are visually very similar, including where things sat and the types of shapes that we use. So the land prompt in the bottom left, there's like a grassy shape with a dandelion in it, and then in the sea piece there is like a shell that looks very similar with like a pearl sitting in it instead of the dandelion. In the corner there's a crab for the sea piece, and in the corner of the other one there's a spider in the same spot for the sea piece. So it was just like about creating these visual similarities. And I think the fall of doing that, like the negative of doing that, is that they are not as good alone as they are together. And I just think I have to be mindful of doing that, because like when people view them, they view them by themselves. But I don't know, do I have to? I don't know. It was really fun to think about how I could portray the different like icons that had visual similarities. I also thought about doing things like a trident for sea and like a fork for land, but like I just didn't include that because it was just too like a man-made object. I want to do stuff from the landscape, if that makes sense. Also figure out how to do that 3D effect. In the end, I think it was super effective, but when I was doing it, I was like, this isn't working. And then once I got it, like it was kind of a fluke. I was like, oh, I know how to do it. You just do a little dark line, a little light line, and then like a base color. Sometimes I just feel like if it's too simple, it's not effective or not going to work, but then that's just me overthinking it. Note to self. Number 28 was plant. There was a lot of initial ideas when I looked at this prompt. I thought about what all the meanings of plant could be. You could be planting a seed. You could be planting an idea. You could be growing a plant. It could just physically be a pot plant. It could be planting a kiss on someone's face. I thought that would be a cute one. Something that would be interesting to portray in the border would be like the process of planting. So like a seed, then a little sprout, then this, and then this, and then this. And then I thought, okay, how am I going to do an entire tree in like a little panel of a border when it's not in scale to the rest of like the icons? But then I thought, what if I portray like the act of planting and growing in the subject of the piece? I thought about like someone running past and there was all these holes and they were throwing everything that's needed to plant a seed into the hole at once, so that we've got like the seed itself, we've got the dirt and a drop of water all happening simultaneously. I thought that would create a lot of awesome movement. And then I thought like she could be holding sun, because obviously sun is an element and an ingredient to plant something, to have something grow. And then I thought I could also have the hole that she's hovering above about to be filled with the stuff, have the second last hole be fully filled but not growing yet, and have the third last hole growing, or second last, I guess that would be, but growing a sprout. I don't know, I just like it. Okay, I love that she's holding that little sun. I was so happy with like the yellow to pink sky and then yellow down to pink border. I just love that. Like, I love gradients. I think they're so magical to look at, and they can be really difficult, but once you get the hang of them, it's like pretty easy. I think the hardest thing for me for this one was, what was the shape of the border going to be? Because like I'd already done a lot of arches. I was very like mindful of the fact of like the different shapes. The borders are not doing the one after another, but I think sometimes it affected the piece, because I was thinking about how Peachtober pieces as a whole looked in chronological order rather than just focusing on like the pieces themselves. Okay, 29, we have whale. I didn't love this piece. Why didn't I love it? I thought the idea was good. I think it's another case of like the experience of making the piece affected how I felt about the piece, because I was like, it was like labored. I was like procrastinating hard. I think it was just because it was the 29th day painting in a row, filming in a row, posting and managing social media in a row. It was just like without any breaks. I was like exhausted. So I was like really like procrastinating this piece. To make matters worse, it was the second time, like I did my first wash. It turned out terribly. So I started again, redid the lines, did the first wash for this piece, and I did not love it. You can tell it's like a little bit patchy, which is okay because it's water, but I just wasn't happy with it. And then I decided to make it full blue, but then it was really hard to create contrast. So like, I remember being really upset about this piece. Remember, sweetheart? I was like so upset. Like I really didn't like it. I think if I was to change it now, I would try and create some more contrast with the whales to the water. Like maybe make the whales lighter. Maybe make the whole piece not blue. Maybe make it just like a completely unexpected color. I do like that it's super monochrome, but I really don't like the lack of contrast. Like it still really bothers me when I look at it. I think this is my least favorite piece of the entire Peachtober. Sad. It's funny about social media because like people are always like, don't be defined by the engagement, whatever. But like, I'm not really defined by negative engagement. But when I dislike a piece and it like does well online, I'm like, oh, that takes the curve off a bit. I didn't like this piece and I'm learning the lessons from not liking it. But for some reason, the reel on Instagram and the TikTok did really well. So I'm like, oh, at least no one else sees that I dislike it. And something that's good about Peachtober is that if you're committing to doing every day and posting every day, you're kind of forced to realize that people don't really judge your work as harshly as you do. And like when you feel bad about it, because there's a couple pieces that I don't love, but like people are fine with it, or people like it, or it does just as well or even better. And it just kind of reminds you that like when you're hard on yourself, like maybe just have confidence in like the creative that you are. But although like I still hate this piece, I do like the blue, but I just wish I wish it was more contrast. I guess what I would change is maybe I would make the water like really dark and the whales a little bit lighter, rather than making like the water the lighter bit and the whales first of all like black so they fade into the background. Second of all, oh, I just like cringe. I cringe when I think about it. I wish maybe I can redo this piece. Okay, day 30 is pet. This is one of my favorites. So, I was so worried after the whale piece because I was like, I don't feel good. It's because it's the end of the month. I was like, the last two pieces are going to be crap. But this was pet, and this is like one of my favorites. So I knew I wanted to do a pet rock. Yeah. Well, I think initially I thought that the prompt was a good opportunity for people to either draw their own pets or a pet that they knew, was to challenge the idea of what a pet was. I thought of drawing like an apple with legs and like barking or whatever, or design a character that had a little companion. You know, I thought there was a lot of opportunities for fun ways that you could take this prompt on. I did the route of designing a character with a companion, and I really wanted my pet to be like a pet rock because I just think it's so cute. Very something that you do in your childhood. Not to say that you can't have a pet rock when you're an adult, but just something that like, I feel like when you're like a kid, you really cherish that rock as if it's like a living thing. Pretty quickly I came up with this visual. I had this visual of like the character carrying the rock, and it was like a pretty big rock and it being really heavy. So taking your rock for a walk was not kind of like as cute as taking your dog for a walk. Like, it's a nice idea, but then when you actually do it, it's like super exhausting. And then I thought it'd be funny to have like this character going up on an incline, and like the story behind the piece being like that the nearest off-leash pet rock park was the top of a mountain, which is like so ironic because that's like so stressful and tiring. Yeah, I love this piece. I love the colors. I love the border. Again, it has that like gradient with the opposite, that really nice gradient with like the harmonious color palette throughout the whole piece, and then also like the scalloped border. I just really like it. I also think the granulation in the background is really pretty. I thought I did a really good job with like the outfit of the character. Like, I think it tells like a story about the character. She looks really similar to the girl that's sitting on top of the boulder, but she's like in sportswear slides. I just think it's really cute. Like, it's her comfy clothes. The only thing that I would change, if I had to change one thing, which I wouldn't change a lot, would just be the contrast with her left bun at the front and her shirt, and then also like the contrast between the shoes and the floor. But that may be like an issue with like scanning as well. No, I feel like it's lack of contrast in real life. Dang. Yeah, I think that's the only thing I would change. And then we come to the final piece, Sleepy. When I came up with this prompt, I knew I wanted it at the end because I just thought we would all be really tired. It's a huge feat to finish like an Arttober challenge. It's like a huge feat to paint every day, or to draw every day, or make every day. It takes dedication, it takes discipline. Even if every day is easy for you, the culmination of the 31 days is like exhausting. And so I thought we would all be sleepy, so I thought it'd be an appropriate prompt to include last. I wanted this prompt to be like a POV. This is what I was going to be doing on like that night. I was going to be sleeping soundly. I was going to have Tonka snuggled up next to me. And then I also had a pencil in my hand so that I could have a homage to each prompt in the border. I think this was like a really easy one to draw, but a really hard one to figure out how to segment the border in that many pieces on each side. First I was going to do 31, but then I like found a loophole because I was like, I only have to do 30 of the prompts because the subject in the middle is one of the prompts. So I don't have to do a dedication to that prompt in the border. So it just has to be 30 because initially it's going to be 31. Do you know how hard that would be to make an odd number in a border? Anyway, I like that I'm holding the pencil and like the pieces in the border are like pencil drawings because I feel like it's as if I'd like done the month and now I'm sleeping. Okay, that's it. I hope you guys love this video. I want to say a big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video as per usual. Thank you, Squarespace. If you guys don't know, Squarespace is an all-in-one platform for building a website. There's an app and there's also like a desktop version, so you can see it on a desktop, or you can literally just make changes on your phone, which I find really, really useful, especially when I'm like doing store drops, because it means that I can upload photos from my phone without having to transfer them to my computer. The store drop that I'm doing for Peachtober, which is live now, get stuff from my Peachtober drop, is made entirely on Squarespace. It is my website platform of choice. It is my shop platform of choice. It is my blog platform of choice. I love it. If you guys have not tried it, go to squarespace.com/furrylittlepeach. You'll get a free trial and 10% off your first purchase. Thank you, Squarespace. Woo! If you joined Peachtober this year or participated in any way, thank you so much. It's like honestly makes it like the joy that it is. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's like challenging, but is such a joy, and that's why I do it every year, and it's because of you guys that it's a joy. I hope you've been resting since it finished, because it is a week or two after Peachtober, and I just hope that you're resting because it is tough. Oh yeah, just a reminder that there are zines, mega jumbo sticker sheets with all 31 prompts, postcard prints, and the originals now. Guys, like this year, the level of work this year, I've never followed so many people as like this Peachtober. I followed more artists that I had never heard of before. than any other year. Like, I think the caliber of work is better and better every single year. It's so crazy. I finished my sketchbook today. I never finish sketchbooks. I just have a lot of sketchbooks that are like not finished. I have a few finished sketchbooks, but that's only like 5. I finished this one. Should I do a sketchbook tour? I feel like that would be fun. You decide in the comments. Oh, and I also want to see which piece was your favorite. I'm always interested to see that because sometimes it's different and sometimes there's one that's like people are heavily leaning to. So please let me know which piece was your favorite from this Peachtober. And don't say whale, okay? If it's whale, I know you guys are just trying to make me feel better. I need your truth. Bye. Let's leave.